my pay grade.
They make it easy now. You can buy whole kits where it just gives you all the shit and like easy instructions.
Hell yeah.
All right. Welcome to the Rotojoes Fantasy Football Podcast. Tonight we have our love-hate show for Week 8. Real quick, how do we do going through Bipocalypse?
I mean, it went okay. In my less competitive leagues, I was able to grab some plug-and-play guys that did really well for me, and I know in the Dynasty League that we're in, I just had to take the L. We got a 25-player half PPR Dynasty League, so the chance of getting 12-team, the chance of getting anybody worth a fuck is slim to none. So, yeah, in that league, a bad bye week is just an L. That's the only way I see it. And it really, a lot of these things are all about getting to the waiver wire in time. We're talking about a couple guys today who are, some of our starts. Did you just drop your fucking phone?
It's my dog. I was just about to say sorry, guys. My dog's over here messing with me.
Well, we're going to talk about a couple players today who I know we just talked about either a week or 2 weeks ago on the waiver wire pickups. That's why the waiver wire is so important. People get hurt, situations change. Teams are better than we thought they were going to be. So, tune in on Tuesdays for those waiver wire picks, because I'm telling you, some of these, I wish I would have got them, because I usually always practice what I preach, but don't always pan out that way.
Yeah, no, for me, Bipocalypse was okay. I actually won in Dynasty. I'm rebuilding. I drafted Saquon and Devontae Adams and Julio Jones. I had an older team, and I thought I was going to contend, and I get through 4 weeks, and it's gone bad, and I got like a Trevor Lawrence for CeeDee Lamb trade and a couple other things, and I decided to blow it up and rebuild. Grabbed DeAndre Swift, Pittman, Jacoby Myers, Javonte Williams, Lawrence. I have Tua. I just have a bunch of young assets. And I'm supposed to be losing, and I kicked the shit out of who I was playing because none of my guys were on Bipocalypse, so I had like a real team. But in the keeper league, I didn't do too well. I wasn't able to navigate that one okay. My running backs are fucked because Chubb was out and Montgomery's out, so I've had to play Javonte Williams in that league. And I think I played Demetric Felton last week. No, I think I had Michael Carter. I had Michael Carter, which isn't much better, but
I'd buy Michael Carter in a dynasty. I tried.
You didn't want to give up Keenan Allen?
Price was goddamn too high. I mean, that particular guy just will not. He's one of those. Every league has him that will not come off a trade and just unless it's just nasty in his favor. And I'm not the guy. So
real quick, I guess I think it'd be cool to talk about this before we get into love hates. We made a trade in that dynasty league recently. So yes. I sent you over Devonta Smith and Khalif Raymond, and I got back Allen Robinson. Why did you want to make that deal?
Here's the deal. It can be a toss up either way. I know Allen Robinson's heavily on the trade block. If he goes to the right team, he's going to blow up. I'm going to look like an idiot. But either way, I felt there was some upside in that getting Devonta Smith because, one, both in bad situations, but Devonta Smith's performing better. Devonta Smith's 6 years younger than Allen Robinson and has presumably a brighter future from this point right now. Like I said, it could definitely blow up in my face if he gets traded to a contender or even somewhere where Matt Nagy's not. I mean, he could go fucking a lot of places and turn it around, but, I know when you're in trade conversations, some things are said, and I usually try, especially with people that I know real well, I try to block out some of that and make my own decisions. But you were like, well, if he stays with Nagy, he's probably fucked. And I said, nah, yeah, you're probably right. But, who knows?
Yeah, for me, like I said earlier, I'm rebuilding. So this is purely a move where I thought I could get more off of Allen Robinson if he gets put in a good situation than Devonta Smith until 3 or 4 years from now, honestly, till Jalen Hurts isn't the quarterback. And
I don't think it's Hurts, man. I don't think it's Hurts. I think Hurts is...
His arm talent's terrible. He's good on the run, but he's like Blake Bortles. Remember Blake Bortles? You score 20 points a game, and you'd be like, how in the fuck did you score 20 points a game? And it was because he'd score all of it in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Well, Kirk Cousins does that too, and no one says anything.
Kirk does do that, but Kirk has better arm talent, though. If Kirk played with Kyle Shanahan, that team would be a Super Bowl contender every year. I'll put it like that.
I'd like to see.
Jalen Hurts isn't like that, though.
I'd like to see a trade go down where Jalen Hurts gets a real coach, and I think, if he had the right coach, the right quarterback coach, kind of fix some of those fundamentals, I think he could be a very good quarterback. But he's probably going to be one of those guys that ends up flaming out after a few years because he just bad situations.
I have a comp for you, and it's not perfect, but tell me that's not Tyrod Taylor 2.0.
Oh, God damn it.
Get some of the let him mature and get some of the turnover stuff and a little bit better ball placement, but Jalen Hurts could easily be Tyrod 2.0.
All I'm saying is Tyrod's washed and everything, but he's a better option for Houston than what we have right now, so I'm ready for him to come back. Never thought I'd say, holy shit, can't wait till Tyrod Taylor gets back.
Let's go ahead and get into our love-hate for the week. Your first love, Joe Burrow versus the Jets. Why are you loving Burrow versus the Jets this week?
Man, here's what I got to say about Joe Burrow, is that man is the real deal. A lot of hate in the offseason, him and Jamar Chase. And what did they do? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, don't they have the best record in the AFC? The Bengals? Holy shit. I mean, think about that for a second. They just were the worst team in the league, picking number 1 in the draft last year or before last season. And, just a lot of hate on Joe Burrow this offseason. And I was on the pod saying Joe Burrow's that dude. And Jamar Chase just took him to a completely different level, which is opening it up for guys like CJ, what the fuck is his name? Uzmazar or something?
Yeah.
I want to say Houshmandzadeh, but I know that was like 10 years ago. But yeah, their tight end, he's a viable fantasy asset at this point. They got, 3 receivers, I think, that could get work any day of the week. Makes Mixon perform better. But yes, for this particular week, I love Joe Burrow going up against the Jets. Easy win. The only thing I fear for is the game script getting out of hand, which it might. I don't really know. And, another bad part to that point is the Jets are starting Mike White. Isn't that who it is?
Yeah.
I don't know who the fuck that is. I couldn't tell you. I've never watched any film on this guy. And neither has anybody else, and they probably don't need to. So, yeah, I'm starting Joe Burrow this week shamelessly. And I think he goes out and slings 4 touchdowns and a half, and then the game script might go bad. But, he's also out to prove something, so maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, the Jets are bottom 2 in points allowed over average, which just it's a way to it's a way to give context to points per game allowed. So the Jets are the second worst team versus quarterbacks. So yeah, I think even in a bad game script, Burrow's gonna at least score 18 points. He's only had 1 game under 18, and that makes him a top 12 quarterback at the very least. So that's an easy play in single quarterback leagues. I wouldn't be surprised if some leagues could go get him on the waiver wire. honestly. And he's quarterback 9 right now. So if that's the case, I'd go grab him unless you have a, Kyler Murray or a Josh Allen. But yeah, Burrow's a smash play this week. The Jets are terrible. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Salah fired in a couple years, just because I was a believer in him, but he might just be a coordinator, because this does not look good on either side of the ball.
Well, and how many times
we score 53?
Okay, yeah, that was bad. But how many times are we going to do this with the Jets? I mean, how many good coaches have we seen go there and fail? And I mean, I don't think it's Slay, because if you remember, Todd Bowles was there. And he's probably going to get another head coaching job and do way fucking better somewhere else. I think there's a bad ownership grasp on that team. And unfortunately, all these coaches go and take the L, because even Adam Gase, before he got into doing head coaching and he was a coordinator in Denver, the guy was lights out. I mean,
Manning was the coordinator there. Let's be honest.
Okay, but as far as
I know what you're saying.
He definitely had some capability. Now he did go out there and do a lot of things to fuck himself, but I just see it time after time. How many times they get a new quarterback, new head coach, doesn't work out, they repeat the process. Like, whatever is going on there is not Soleil's fault per se, but yeah, I have to agree.
I don't disagree with that, but yeah, it's the biggest competitive advantage in the NFL is ownership, and it's not like that in every sport, but in the NFL, that's by far the biggest competitive advantage. How good is your ownership? And like the Texans' ownership is bad; they're perpetually in the dumpster. The Jacksonville's ownership is bad. Jets ownership is bad. There's a reason these teams are bad. It's not just because of the staff and football players. It's everything.
There's a reason you can pretty much pick 3 to 4 of the top 5 picking teams in every draft before the season starts, and you don't even. I mean, it's every year. It's Houston, Jacksonville. Houston's had some good years, but Jacksonville, the Jets. I mean, those guys are always going to be top 5, 6 in the draft every fucking year, no matter what happens. And everybody that goes there is fucking doomed.
Yeah. Go ahead, moving on. My love quarterback of the week is Trevor Lawrence versus Seattle. We were talking about it this morning. Lawrence, through 7 games, yet Mac Jones has been the best looking quarterback in terms of stats and just like team success, I'd say. But Lawrence is by far the most talented. I'll argue that with anyone. There's 5 to 10 plays a game where you just you watch him do something, you're like, holy shit, how did you see that? And especially at the beginning of the season, he was really testing the waters. He threw 7 picks because he was just trying to see what he could get away with. Going out of Clemson, where he honestly could probably do whatever he wanted with the football, he had to kind of reel that in and figure that out. But through his last 3 games, he's only had 1 interception. So he's kind of cleaned that up and seen that. I'm thinking he's going to break out eventually. I think that there's not a real super duper crazy clear offensive rookie of the year candidate outside of Najee maybe or Jamar Chase. But usually those awards go to quarterbacks. And I wouldn't really be surprised if we see Lawrence break out. And if this was his first game, that I'd expect that. Seattle's just a bad D, and it's coming off his bye week. If Urban Meyer's at least a little bit decent, that will help him improve and kind of see some things. And it seems like he's about to start going nuclear, even though the rest of the team is bad. The talent's just there. You see it too much. I just think he starts figuring things out relatively quickly here soon.
I agree. I mean, it's just a matter of time. These quarterbacks that come from these prestigious football programs get picked early in the draft. I mean, they're used to having an all-pro team essentially around them in a lot of cases with Clemson and Alabama, that there is an adjustment period. Now, you think about Trey Lance and Mac Jones, those guys went to teams that are only a couple of years away from being in a Super Bowl or winning a Super Bowl, it's a different situation. He's going to a decimated team with a coach that isn't that great. So he's not able to just go out there and I mean he's got some.
Urban's into tight ends, I hear.
Yeah, yeah, he is. He is grabbing on that girl ass, huh? But they have an adjustment period, and I think Trevor Lawrence. It doesn't concern me at all that he's going through that. I agree. He's gonna dial it back, figure out what works in the NFL. He's a smart player. And what no better week than when you're playing a decimated Seahawks team where the defense isn't good to start. Topple that off with a bad offense to go with it. Yeah, this is as good a week as any for him to start breaking out. And, for whatever reason, you probably can't get Trevor Lawrence off the waiver wire, which sounds very stupid because we just said you could probably get Joe Burrow off the waiver wire, but you probably can't get Trevor Lawrence off the waiver wire. So, yeah, if you can't get him off the waiver wire, I'd pick him up and stash him because it's, we're going into the second half of the year. Truthfully, they stand no chance in hell of making the playoffs. He's just going to start figuring it out. Just like Joe Burrow would have done had he not been injured at the end of last year.
Yep. Go ahead and move on to your hate quarterback for Week 8, Tua versus Buffalo. Why don't you like Tua this week?
I got a couple reasons for that, but I'll try to keep that one short. Is that defense is going to fucking eat him alive. There is no way around that. And you can say all you want that he's not bothered by the trade rumors, but here's the deal. He's a high pick, a lot of pressure, halfway through his second year, and even really prior to finishing his first year, the trade talk started. He hasn't performed badly, but you can't tell me that isn't on his mind. I mean, those older seasoned guys, they can handle that shit because they've been dealing with it forever. I bet you anything he's got way more pressure on him at this moment than at any point in his life. And I think it's going to cause him to make some mistakes. I mean, here's the deal. The Dolphins are going to be 1-7 after this week, and it doesn't matter who they have on the roster. They're going to take the L this week and be in a very bad spot. So ultimately, I think they trade for Watson either way. I think it happens before the trade deadline Tuesday, and I just don't see him going out and having a real good day. The only thing you could really hope for is some good rushing upside from him, but who knows if he can even do that on that defense, because that defense is nasty.
Yeah, they give up the least points over expected against quarterbacks, so they're legit. I actually in my notes I just have pass rush is going to kick his ass because the Dolphins have absolutely no linemen. I think Tua is very talented. I've been on Twitter posting comps of him and Russell Wilson through 12 games, and him and Drew Brees through 12 games. And a lot of people hate Tua. I think he's legit. It's going to take him some time to develop. It took Drew Brees some time to develop. Those shorter, smaller quarterbacks need auxiliary pieces around him starting out. A good running game is important. Think of what Russ had with Marshawn. It's really, there's no pressure when it gets down to 3rd and 3. You're like, yeah, I have Marshawn Lynch. Let's hand him the ball. I don't have to make a play there. And so
losing a Super Bowl, but yeah, if you don't give it to Marshawn, but yeah, and I think we've talked about this a bunch of times. I think Tua's second team is gonna really benefit from him, but I mean, you get picked top 5, you're on a team that's supposed to contend, and it doesn't go that way, and someone's got to pay for it. And ultimately, I think it's going to be Tua. Like I said, my dream landing spot for Tua is Atlanta. Atlanta or even the Giants, or there's a lot of good places.
You need to give him a better coordinator than Garrett. I didn't think about Tua with the Giants. That's a perfect.
Well, that's all going to go away. Joe Judge goes away. I hate Joe Judge. He if he lasts the rest of the season, all of us can just expect to never get fired because it's just not going to happen. I don't believe in his coaching abilities. It was a reach of a hire, but yeah, Garrett will go away with him. But I'm just talking about the pieces around. There's definitely some talent there that can be utilized with him, and I mean, there's a couple of good landing spots for him. But yeah, I think ultimately he's going to go.
I agree. I'll be quick with my hate quarterback. It's kind of a hot take. It's only single quarterback league advice, and I'd only do it if you were just like really worried about losing. You're 4-3, 3-4. You need a few wins here, and you just want to be able to have a high upside. I don't necessarily love Matt Stafford going up against Houston this week. It's not because Houston is any good, but because, for one, the Rams have a super slow pace. So I want to say bottom 12. I'm not looking, though. I could be butchering that. But they're bottom 12 in pace. And Houston is not great against the pass, but they're really fucking bad against the run. And if Sean McVay went out there and ran the ball 50 times just to make sure Stafford wasn't getting the miles, I wouldn't be surprised. So a little bit hot takey. If you're in a super flex league, you can't sit Stafford. But if you're in a single quarterback and you need an upside play, I think you can do better than Matt Stafford versus Houston. I can see this game script getting bad fast. Davis Mills is going to get fucking chewed up by Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. It's going to be like, yeah. If you told me that at the 9-8-7 minute mark, it's 21-0 and Houston has, the Rams have 2 defensive touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, no. That game is going to go really badly, and I love the headlines out of Houston before it because, I follow all these guys and I watch the Houston news pretty closely, and they were saying, "Oh, Tyrod might come back," and then about 2 hours later, they're like, "We're going to sit him one more week just to make sure he's right." And I was like, why would they report that and then that? And then I look and I'm like, oh, fuck, we're playing the Rams. I don't want them to fucking die next week. Yeah, so if you have the Rams defense, fucking start them. Yep. Start them shamelessly. Because, yeah, 2 defensive touchdowns would not be hard.
Not at all. Let's go ahead and move on. Your love running back of the week, Kenneth Gainwell versus Detroit. Why do you love Gainwell this week?
Well, here's the deal. Miles Sanders is out on IR, gone 3 weeks. And I kind of figured that. And this is one of those guys I was talking about that we just talked about picking up off the waiver wire. If you did, it's going to hit this week. They're playing Detroit. Bad defense. I mean, the Eagles aren't a great offense, but I think Kenneth Gainwell offers a good dual threat out of the backfield. Little fucker, Detroit couldn't stop anybody really. I think Alabama could line up against Detroit right now and it'd be a fucking 70 point bomb they lay on him probably. But yeah, I think he's got, and Boston Scott is not going to threaten Gainwell's workload really at all. The thing I love the most about pass catching backs is because they still remain relevant even if something goes wrong in the game script. Because they can catch passes out of the backfield, they can rush. I'm excited to see what he can do, but I really feel like he's definitely a good plug and play. You got a guy on bye. If you were lucky enough to get that waiver claim, you're sitting pretty good this week.
Yeah, here's my only thing with Gainwell. It's not too much of a pushback for most people. You're going to start him. Miles Sanders is RB33 on the year, and he's the lead guy. And sure, Gainwell spells him a little bit, but for the most part, Sanders is getting the majority of the carries. So I'm just not. I think Sirianni might just be that bad of a coach, and that you just really, with how he wants to play, you can't really trust any running back. And also, I wouldn't be uber surprised. He came from Indianapolis, And you know what Indianapolis does with their backs. And I wouldn't be surprised if now that Sanders is out, we see all of a sudden a 3-back committee with Jordan Howard and Boston Scott and Gainwell. So I think hypothetically, you're right. He should be a smash play. If it was a smart coach, he would be. But Sirianni, if you watch that Green Bay game Thursday night and what LaFleur was, his play calling and how he was calling his game, that's a whole different sport than what Sirianni tries to do. He's that bad. So that's my only pushback. He's a top 24 running back ranking wise this week. You can't sit him, but especially in DFS, I might look for other options because you might run into some issues.
It could go bad, and you're right. It's truly because of the coach, and you look at the production out of Gainwell and out of Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is not doing anything. And you would think if you were the coach, or how many times are you going to let that happen before you try something different? I mean, it doesn't. You got other running backs on the roster, and Gainwell, I think he kind of like somewhat like a Darren Sproles type of back. I think he's got that same kind of ability. And I'd like to see him do well this week.
I like Kenneth Gainwell too. He's a waiver wire pickup of mine, like week 1. I like him, but Sirianni.
I picked him up and dropped him twice, and now I wish I did.
Yeah, I hear that. My love running back for the week, Chuba Hubbard versus Atlanta. Atlanta's 4th. They're giving up the 4th most points over average to running backs. And Hubbard's locked into at least like 15 touches a game. Darnold's been terrible. He started out tearing it up, and now he sucks. Back to being Sam Darnold. So if they get up, I would be surprised if Joe Brady and Tom Rule take it out of his hands and let Hubbard and Freeman, and I think they have another guy who gets a little work, just finish the game out. So I know it's pretty short, pretty sweet, but especially with bye weeks going on, all these injuries, Hubbard's a smash play. Atlanta's terrible, and I think that Carolina's going to win this game. It could even be like a sneaky shootout, but I'm not sure. But Hubbard's a smash play with 15 touches versus this bad defense.
I agree, bad defense, yes, but my only concern with that would be, does Sam Darnold go out playing as bad as he did last week, and Matt Ryan gets up 21 points really quick on him? And because Matt Ryan's sneaky. Everybody has him ranked real low, but he's still a productive quarterback. They're not a competitive team, but, he kind of reminds me of, like Drew Brees at the end of his career. He's not elite by any means, but he still has productive games, and sometimes he just lights some people up and no one saw it coming. So, my only concern with that would be Sam Darnold. Does Sam Darnold play like weeks 1 through 4 Sam Darnold, or 5, 6, and 7?
Yeah.
Because that's just night and day. That shit's insane, because for a little bit, I had DJ Moore, and for a little bit I was like, oh, that might be a league winner, because he was getting insane amounts of targets. I mean, and just doing all kinds of shit with it. And now I'm like, God damn it, I should have sold high.
Yeah.
But you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Staying in the same game, your hate running back is going to be Mike Davis going up against Carolina. Why do you hate Mike Davis this week?
Well, I hate Mike Davis for a lot of reasons. A wasted draft pick was one of them. But Carolina defense is stout. Their defensive line is stout. Condrell Patterson is clearly the lead back in whatever weird kind of situation they got going on there. Mike Davis is not even on the flex radar, because his only value comes if he gets a touchdown. That's really it. He's about 8-9 points a game sometimes. Sometimes he'll get you 2. I just don't see enough upside to justifiably play him and really even roster him unless there's a Cordell Patterson injury, and then we could see what we thought we might see. But as of now, yeah, I'm sitting in bad matchup, bad situation, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, I hear you. Carolina is stout against the run game and the pass game. Stephon Gilmore's coming back too, which don't know how much that matters for Mike Davis, but that'll shut down one of Pitts or Ridley. Davis, he's just a plotter, and Patterson is the lead back. Some weeks Davis gets some okay work, some weeks he doesn't. I wouldn't want anything to do with him. He's kind of like I feel the same way about him as I felt about Todd Gurley last year. Like, yeah, he might fall in the end zone, and you might be lucky, but most weeks that's not happening. So,
and you think about some of these teams, I think about it a lot. Like the Cowboys consistently have a very top end running back all the time, whether it was Zeke, DeMarco Murray. I mean, they had a lot of guys with a lot of value. And you look back to it, outside of Devontae Freeman's good season, it's been a fucking while. They're just one of those teams that don't really pay much attention to the running back. And I think it hurts them a lot of times.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead. My hate for the week's going to be Leonard Fournette versus New Orleans. I'm not a Leonard Fournette guy in the slightest. New Orleans top 12 versus running backs, points over expected. Fournette, I don't know, man. He just kind of eats clock up. He's not anything special to me. And I think this is a game versus a good New Orleans team, a sneaky good New Orleans team. Brady's going to have to win it with his arm. I know I've said it like 3 times, but I really, really, really could see this being a Gio Bernard week.
Last week too, huh?
Man, I think Bernard is really good.
Well, I also remember on this podcast, if people go back a few episodes where you told me Ronald Jones was going to be better than Leonard Fournette, and
he's more talented. Ronald Jones is way better, but Bruce Arians has a weird if he messes up, he can't play ever again type of thing going on.
And he hasn't. I haven't seen him do anything lately.
No, he fumbled twice, and Bruce Arians was just done. He's like, nope, you can't play anymore. But yeah, I feel like this isn't a Fournette week. New Orleans is good against the run, and I mean, say what you want about Jameis. He's had. I heard this today. The amount of games that he had without a turnover in Tampa Bay is the same amount of games he's went without a turnover this year, in a row. It's 3 or 4. So Jameis has been cleaning it up. He has no wide receivers, so his production hasn't been great. Wait for Mike Thomas to be back, but I think Sean Payton's going to make this game close, and Fournette's going to be phased out of it pretty quick.
I could see it. I mean, it's 2 good defenses going against each other, so you hope it won't be that high scoring of a game, but when Tom Brady's involved and whatever fountain of youth he's drinking out of it could go either way. But I don't know, man. I like Leonard Fournette. I think he is the running back to have in Tampa Bay. I definitely see your point on Bernard, but I just haven't seen it materialize yet. So, and when it does, it's going to be a great thing, I'm sure, but
it might never. Let's go ahead. Your love wide receiver for the week, Emmanuel Sanders versus Miami. Why are you loving Emmanuel Sanders this week?
Oh, it's going to be a nasty game down there. And Emmanuel Sanders, he was a guy that you could have got off the waiver wire at the beginning of the year and paid the huge dividends up until this point.
I told you.
Yeah, I don't know why I just breezed past that one. but yeah, he's come in. He's kind of been the perfect number two to Diggs out there, and a lot of times Diggs gets a lot of the focus, which frees up Sanders, and it's as simple as that. And you want that in a high flying offense. He's kind of taken that role I thought Gabe Davis was going to have this year. Kind of broke my heart, but nonetheless, he is definitely a smash play this week. Like I said, man, I had high hopes for this Miami team, but something ain't right down there. Actually, a lot of things aren't right.
It's rough. Sanders is a smash play. Sanders is a playable wide receiver 3 week in, week out. He's seen in every game but one, he's seen 6 or more targets. In the game he didn't see 6 targets, he saw 5. He's right now wide receiver 29. Allen's been looking his way. He's kind of taken some of Cole Beasley's work too, which I was really high on Cole Beasley coming into the season, but it looks like Sanders is that guy I just kind of overlooked him preseason, but I agree. Allen's looking his way. He scored 2 touchdowns in 2 different games. If he gets hot, he's going to torch him, and this is a terrible Miami defense. It's almost, you could start, if you really needed a flex option, you could almost start any of the 4 guys that play wide out for the Bills. And you could play Zach Moss. And you can maybe play Devin Singletary. Shit, he might fall in the end zone. These are all guys that might
couple weeks where he looked like a rock star.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here's why I wasn't high on Emmanuel Sanders going into the year is he started out, I think, in Pittsburgh, played well there, went and played with Manning, played well there. Then he goes to New Orleans, and I thought that was going to be a boom. It wasn't. He goes to like San Francisco. I also thought he was going to catch on there, and he didn't. So some years go by, and I just kind of think the guy had lost it. Not lost it, but regressed that far to where he wasn't even a factor, but goes to the right situation in Buffalo, starts blowing the lid off of defenses. Shit. All right.
Yeah. My love wide receiver for the week is Michael Pittman versus Tennessee. I love Michael Pittman. He was a guy I bought in Dynasty a few weeks ago before he really started to blow up. He's to me, he's like Alshon Jeffrey 2.0. Wentz has been playing very well this year, especially of late. Pittman's the guy he tends to go to the most, and he's seen 4 or more targets in 6 to 7 games. He's had a couple games where he's had like 10 or 12 targets. He's just a guy. I mean, he's a big-bodied receiver. He wins 50-50 balls, and that happens to be what Carson Wentz likes to throw. If Reich were ever to let Wentz open the offense up and give Pittman and these other receivers some more work, Pittman might be a poor man's Mike Evans, honestly, with a little more consistency. So Tennessee's been bad against wide receivers. They're 4th worst versus wide receivers in expected points above average. It's a pretty cake matchup for him. And if you're in a dynasty league, I'd say you need to buy him now before the price goes up, because I think that might be a future wide receiver 1. He's a big body dude. Like I said, wins 50-50 balls. And if Wentz catches on in Indianapolis, it's going to partially be because Pittman's there.
Oh, I agree 100%. I've liked Pittman for a while. And here's the deal. He's a young guy. Wentz is out there. Wentz is doing good. And if Wentz continues to improve, it's only going to get better from here. Yep. I like that game because I see that one being a very, very high scoring game. Because, I mean, seems like Tannehill kind of got back on the wagon last week. They got touchdown Henry. And it's a game between the 2 leading rushers in the league. So I just see points getting scored left and right because neither defense is elite.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
The Colts defense is good, but not great. Not as good as I would have thought they would have been. I'm excited to watch that one. I think that one's going to be a good one. Yeah, fire up. He's really the only wide receiver you can trust on that team. So Go for it.
Yeah, I agree. Going on your hate wide receiver of the week, Odell Beckham Jr. versus Pittsburgh. Why aren't you liking Odell this week?
Man, fuck. Ah! So Odell's got like 2 fucked up shoulders, right? I can't believe they're still letting him play. But whatever. I have him in Dynasty. I guess ride the horse until the wheels fall off or whatever. Um, yeah, so Baker is maybe not going to play. We saw how that went last week without him. Pittsburgh's defense is lights out. I just don't like the situation at all. I think it's going to be one of those games where if Chubb plays, it's going to be just a nasty Nick Chubb week. I would have picked that as my running back start of the week, but he's at that point where I don't need to tell you to start Nick Chubb. You just do it. You know what I mean? So, but that is definitely, if Nick Chubb's the highest scoring running back this week, I'm not surprised.
Chubb running back one season.
Oh, yeah. Hunt out. I mean, Dearness Johnson, I think, has earned a little respect, and he'll get some work. But still, it's going to be the Nick Chubb show. He's the best offensive player on that team by a long shot. And Odell, really, in my opinion, should get traded somewhere. He needs to go get shoulder fucking surgery and then get traded somewhere.
Yeah.
Non-factor, really, in that offense. Jarvis Landry's a better fit there than he is.
I agree. Odell, he sees targets, but him and Baker just can't connect for whatever reason. I feel like Odell's open a lot, and I don't know if it's how Stefanski's coaching Baker. I don't know if it's Baker. I don't know what it is, but something's going on there. They've never been able to get it figured out. I'm fading him until he gets a new quarterback or new team, and I think new team's going to matter more. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, he just not. He's open, but they can't figure it out with him at all. It's sad because he's super talented. Probably be a wide receiver one if he played on like the Packers or shit. Even I could imagine him and Jameis.
Oh, that'd be good. But I just don't get it. Like, are you telling me that Eli Manning is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's just hard to think that out loud, but you look at Saquon and Odell, those were elite skill position players with Eli Manning. After Eli Manning moved on, fucking A. Neither one of them can, well, they both have injury issues, but neither one of them have been the same since Eli Manning stopped playing with. And I just always thought Eli Manning was average, but I think I'm starting to retract that statement, and I believe I was wrong.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. My hate wide receiver for the week is Brandon Cooks versus the Rams. Rams are top 8 against wide receivers and expected points above average. Cooks is frustrated with the organization. I think it's pretty clear he wants out. If he didn't play super hard this week, I wouldn't be surprised. And if Jalen Ramsey shadows him and Mills just literally does not have time to find him down the field, I would not be surprised. So this is another short, sweet hate. I probably would try to find another option if you can. Sometimes you won't. And Cooks has played better than I thought he would this year, but I think this week he's a guy that you want to try to avoid. It's just not all the ingredients are there for a bad week for him.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love Brandon Cooks, but I agree with you. Just, we had this conversation a few times, and you're playing Jalen Ramsey. You just don't. I don't give a shit who it is. I'm just probably not going to play anybody who I know is going to get some Jalen Ramsey action. And yeah, Brandon Cooks. I don't know what, I love the player, but I don't know what the fuck he wants, because he came out at the beginning of the season and said he was tired of getting fucking traded. Don't trade him. Don't trade for him. He doesn't want to get traded. And now all of a sudden he wants to get traded. I get it. Get off the burning ship. I think we should get whatever we can in return for him. We get a second, third round pick. Houston's in a rebuild mode. And here's the deal. By the time we get back to being holy shit. What is the word I'm trying to say? Relevant. That's right. That's it. By the time we get back to being relevant, Brandon Cooks is not going to be worth his contract. Same thing with Laramie Tunsil. Great offensive tackle, but by the time we get to a point of competing, he's going to be mid-30s. And that's kind of my stance on some of those guys. Like Mark Ingram, we have two other running backs. I love the way Mark Ingram runs, but he's over the hill in age. We're going into a rebuild. These guys should all be shipped, in my opinion. The only people we should hang on to guys like Nico Collins, who's a couple years out from being really good, and develop some of these younger guys while we rebuild.
Yeah, I agree. That's what New England needs. New England ought to do with a couple of some of the guys we have, like some of these guys we're about to talk about. Your love tight end, Hunter Henry, who needs to get traded. Why do you love Hunter Henry versus the Chargers?
I love him for a revenge game. You may call it a revenge game, but he's playing his old team. He's been productive. He's obviously got a little bit of a better rapport with Mac than Jonnu Smith does. And he's, these last few games, he's been good for at least a touchdown. May not catch a lot of passes, may not get a lot of yards, but he's good for at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I guess I'll roll mine and then talk about both. My love tight end is actually Jonnu versus the Chargers, so our other tight end. And here's why. The only reason I know this is because I watch the New England games and I tend to absorb the content more than any other team, being a fan of them. Jonnu is usually better versus zone teams, and Hunter Henry is usually better against man teams. And why it matters this. Usually most defenses 40-60, 50-50, at most like 75-25. 80, 70-30. Brandon Staley runs an almost exclusive zone defense. That's almost all he plays. He plays 3-down linemen, backs everyone else out, keeps essentially trying to keep the offense in front of him. And so if there were a week that Jonnu breaks out, it would be this week against a really zone-heavy team. Wouldn't be surprised if Jonnu saw 6 or 7 dink and dunk targets and ended up getting like 100 yards off of pretty much yard after catches. So Hunter Henry, I like him better rest of the season for sure. But just specifically this week, I'm fading him a little bit. Both guys, if you absolutely had to, you could play them and hope something happens. But yeah, that's the only reason why I like Jonnu better. Hunter Henry's much better rest of the season. Wish we'd trade one of the two so that these stupid big contracts wouldn't be hurting us.
I would. That was a bad signing. Which one they signed first? They signed Jonnu first, right? I probably should have stuck with that.
I agree. I think Jonnu's super talented.
I think they probably wanted Hunter Henry, but could get Jonnu faster, and then Hunter Henry is like, oh, fuck it, I'll do it. And then they're like, well, maybe we could do the whole 2 tight end thing again, and it has not gone that way.
No, not at all. Moving on, tight ends are always quick. Your hate tight end, Cook versus the Patriots. Why do you hate Cook versus the Patriots?
Because it's the Patriots.
That's fair.
Tight ends
show that.
If you're at a point with tight end where you're considering starting Jared Cook, you're obviously pretty bad off anyway. You could probably dump into the waiver wire, find there's probably a couple better options out there. I can't think of any off the top of my head because I don't have bad. Ricky Seals-Jones would probably be better most weeks. Who else?
Conklin.
Actually, this year is better for tight ends than I can remember. There were some really shitty years for tight ends, and Kyle Pitts coming into the league. He adds another. I think Gesicki's come into form pretty good.
Here's one for your And
Oh, he's going to be – yeah, Ebron's out this week, so put in fair. Yeah, I forgot about that. And Juju being out, oh, yeah, that could go really well. And I'm just waiting for that to break out. He kind of reminds me a lot of Gronk.
Yep, and they called him Baby Gronk in college.
Yeah, oh, well, I didn't know that. But he just reminds me a lot of Gronk, and Moose Day is coming. I will never be able to spell his name right, but his day is coming. That's all I got.
I agree. My hate tight end. This is kind of tight end so hard. Dalton Schultz versus Minnesota. Minnesota's top 15 versus tight end. It's a primetime game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a really big either CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper game or both. And I just think that the targets are going to be funneled to those guys and Schultz won't be used quite as much. That's my only reasoning. I might not be right, but I hate a lot of tight ends, so I figure that would be the guy who is highest ranked. That would be replaceable.
I hate about 26 tight ends in the league, so I feel you. For me, it's just matchup dependent. Like, if you don't have an every week start, it's just matchup dependent. Another thing with Schultz, Dak Prescott may not play.
Yes, and he won't. He won't. Cooper Rush got all the snaps today. Prescott's not playing in practice.
Right, and that's bad for everybody involved in the Dallas offense because we've already seen what that looks like.
Yes.
Cooper Rush ain't the guy. Personally, they'd be better off if they picked up Cam Newton. Ain't going to do nothing for him right now, but yeah. So if Dak doesn't play, I'm going to have to definitely say, fuck, I might have to reconsider starting CeeDee Lamb, which I didn't think would be a thing, but
I just thought about after saying that CeeDee Lamb would have a big game, Dak won't play. Yeah, I'd fade the whole lot. Zeke and Pollard might have big games, but I'd fade the rest.
You saw it last year, though.